Koch, and we are back. You guessed it, with another Profound Professionals. We have been running this show for almost 8 years now. I've been saying seven for so long. I was doing some math and thought, OMG, we are approaching 8 years. Can you believe it? I know it's hard for me to believe. You have been following us, you have been liking, you've been sharing, and you just don't know whose lives you touch because you've hit that share button and maybe inspired someone to do something good, learn something new, hear about a cause they never knew about or needed, inspired them to give, learned from these brilliant industry experts from all over the world that we've been bringing you. Yes, they help you improve your personal life, they help you grow your business. And today, I am not going to disappoint you. I am right on track with super consistent. We've got in the house Bruce Barnes, AKA the Logical Intuitive. I love this. He is a mindset, wellness, and communication expert. We need our minds well. We need wellness from head to toe in our time, in our finances, in our body. And we definitely need to communicate to achieve any of that. With ourselves, communication is just as important too. So, welcome, Bruce. I love having you and having you back. You're like, I have a couple of guests that we just keep featuring, which just makes my heart sing and thrills me to no end. But your story is one of my favorites and the most fascinating. And I send people to your show all the time. So,
Oh,
welcome, Bruce.
oh, thank you, thank you. I'm so honored to be on here with you, and just so, I guess, really touched with how my story has touched you, and that you just sharing that. So that's so cool. So thank you for having me.
Yes, it's my pleasure. Matter of fact, my husband and I were just talking about, the subject husband and wives never want to talk about, right? So, like, what do you do in the medical situation? And my husband says, don't plug me up to anything. Just let me go. And I say, absolutely no way. I'm plugging you up to everything. I'm hanging on to you because you just don't know who will come back from amazing in amazing ways, because it is mind over matter. And so often, you hear the stories of people sitting next to people going through traumatic things, and those loved ones are being heard, even though they can't tell at the moment. They're making a difference. So, Bruce, I'm spilling the beans a little. I'm giving away a little of the story. I just because I'm so excited about your story. So, share with us a little bit of back history. Let's go back in time a bit, a few years. From what led you on this journey to be the logical intuitive. I love that. It's very Spock-like, I have to tell you. My
Yeah.
husband's also very, live long and prosperous.
Yeah,
So,
I got both of my little posters back here, but
right.
it really it started. Oh, I started having health challenges when I was a teenager, and initially we thought it was ulcerative colitis, and uh, shortly after I got my driver's license, I wound up having to be rushed to the hospital for the first time. I was essentially bleeding to death, and that was the first time that I had that serious of a situation, and actually the first time too that I had my last rites read to me, which is really humbling when that happens.
Oh
And
my gosh.
so, at
How
any rate, that
girls
was
to hear that?
yeah, that was in the 10th grade, and so I spent physically in and out of the hospital half of my 10th grade,
Mhm.
and the doctors essentially told my folks, his body's been through a lot this year, so don't even put him back in school for for the 11th grade. Go somewhere where we live in Washington State. So he said, go somewhere warm where his body can just heal up and recover on that. So my dad's brother and his wife, who lived in Georgia, would winter in Southern California. So we decided, okay, well, hey, we'll go down there and we'll, hang out with them. And I wasn't down there for very long, and we were trying an experimental or sort of experimental thing for treating ulcerative colitis, and it was two um, cactus extracts
Hmm.
that you'd mix with water and that. It tasted like mold. It was horrible. But anyway, so it's like within a few weeks of starting on that, I almost died again with staph and parasite infection throughout my whole body.
Oh,
So again, almost dying there. So spent 5 weeks in the hospital in isolation there. Got well enough to travel, came up back home, and ended up in the hospital again. And they said, "Okay, Bruce, we can keep doing this, build your body up, or we can just do surgery and remove the bad, stuff." And so let's do that, And
yeah.
so the day after surgery, they always get you out of bed and they weigh you.
Hmm.
I weighed 65 pounds the day after surgery.
Hmm.
But the next 7 years, man, I could eat anything. And it was just like, it was wonderful. And so started down the road of this is what I always kind of have to laugh at, is how I was kind of like asking people, how did you decide on your career? Because the way I did it, when I was in school in that 10th grade, there was a couple classes that I really liked. One of them was Introduction to Computer Programming. The other one was Basic Electronics. So after my surgery, I thought, okay, I could go back a year behind my classmates
Hmm.
or do my GED and get a jump start and go to the vocational school. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. And okay, which path am I going to go down? So I sat down and I visualized what I would be doing in each of those industries. And that says, okay, back then, television sets were massive tube sets that weighed a ton.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking, okay, repairing TV sets is the most logical thing at that point for electronics back then. So I could see myself wearing, this big television sets, or as a computer programmer sitting behind a computer or a keyboard. It's like, I think I'll go that route. So that's how I made my career decision. So then I spent 37 years as a computer programmer, web developer, and before PCs really existed, it was all mainframe computers with punch cards. So I saw the whole evolution of the computing industry and email
I
and
can't believe
internet.
you've dated yourself in
Oh yeah,
a
I'm
way that
old.
I can't imagine that it's actually possible. Like I remember when um in my I don't know, 6th or 7th grade, we got to write some code and then like a little guy would dance on the screen or something
Yeah.
like we
Yep.
could do that. And then I also remember when the paper had those little dotted holes on the edges.
Yep.
But that's as far back as I go. Like
Yep.
I think
Oh
you
yeah.
I
But
think
anyway,
you beat me
so
there.
then, of course, during my career, I also had several more flare-ups and surgeries and almost dying a few more times and that. And there was one, um, the which you're kind of relating to earlier. I was found out that I had a hole in my intestine in 1985, and they checked and it's, oh gee, you were misdiagnosed. You don't have ulcerative colitis, you have Crohn's disease. So it's like, oh man, okay. So we did the corrective surgery and fixed the hole and that. So then a couple of years later, wind up having another hole in the intestine. And like, okay, another couple of weeks in the hospital, another surgery. Okay. Well, the Crohn's was so active at that point that when they would do a surgery, I'd have another hole that would form and just more complication, kept coming. And so that wound up being 21 days shy of a year in the hospital and,
Oh my God.
several surgeries. And that's where at one point they, so the first surgery was on Friday, the 13th of February. And the whole formed is like, okay, well, we're going to let you everything rest for about a month and we'll do another one, do it again. Friday the 13th of March. Same issue. This is, are you guys purposely picking Friday
Yeah,
the
this
13th?
is a
Come on.
bad scheduling plan. But how did you keep, so with all of that happening over and over again, all through your childhood even, how did you keep your spirits up? You do say you're a mindset expert. I don't think anyone I've ever met qualifies more for that title, because look at the smile on your face. Like,
Yeah.
how did you keep from getting right seriously into a depression and saying, that's it, all these near death experiences, I give up, I throw in the towel? How
Yeah.
did you keep, what drove you to keep your head straight,
Well, that was one of the things. One of other, my dad's other brothers was, besides chiropractor, he was also into kinesiology. And he kind of taught me a little bit of, whenever they were visiting in town. Besides the adjustment, he would also kind of educate me on the energy flow in the body and the power of the mind. And that was what really kind of got me interested in that. And then just I didn't realize it at the time, but I could, if I started having some discomfort in that, I could just kind of meditate and just focus on that area, and I was able to get it to calm down. So then later on, I realized, okay, the mind has some control over the body here. This is interesting. Okay. And
Mhm.
so I just, I don't know. I always kind of focused on uh, keeping a positive energy, because my uncle had said, the negative energy causes physical damage. And like, okay. So years later, when I'm in that hospital, and it started to be that year-long stay, after the second surgery failed, it was funny. This is the hospital I was in. There was a lady that was a chaplain there, and she came in, and I was in the room by myself, and so she closed the door, and she grabbed a pillow, and she started getting really excited. As well, she said, imagine you're really upset and disappointed that the surgery didn't work. So here, take this pillow, hit me, yell at me, and scream. So I'm sitting up, and I'm kind of backing up, and it's like, no, I'm good. It's like, really? It says, well, you're kind of freaking me out right now. Otherwise, it's just like, well, aren't you depressed about this? Well, I'm kind of bummed that it didn't work, but this is, no, I'm staying, keep a positive attitude here. It's like, really? This is how it's like, well, I'm not going to let more negative energy get in there and screw up
Mhm.
more things. I'm going to stay as focused and positive as I can. And
Yeah.
so then several months later, well, they had said after another surgery, they noticed, like, you're starting to turn yellow and jaundice. So you might have got some bad blood during one of the surgeries. Like, really? Gee. So my
Is
liver
there a
functions.
screening process for that?
Well, yeah, and so the weekly blood work was showing my liver functions. The bilirubin was really starting to climb, and it's like, okay, so short, month or whatever later, um, they have a special on the hospital TV channel uh, that Dr. Bernie Siegel, who wrote the book Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And my folks had gotten that book from one of my dad's brothers, but I had never read it. But he's on there doing this special about what was included in his book. And it was all about the power of the mind and visualization. It was like, oh, okay. So he was talking about how he was an oncologist, and he would kind of work with his patients on visualizing their body healing and killing off the cancer and that, along with the traditional treatment. And all of his patients got better quicker, than any other oncologist. And So they relayed some of the stories. He had one patient that, he told him, was like, I want you to visualize your body killing off the cancer cells. So, sorry, I can't do that, doc. And I was like, well, why not? He says, well, I'm a Puritan. I can't kill anything. It's like, okay, how about if you visualize your body gathering up the cancer cells in a basket and throwing them out of your body? So, oh, I can do that. And he got better. And then they said, well, and then there was a patients in the hospital. One of them that they used as an example was right near the nurse's station. And the nurse saw the doctor, went in to see the patient, and then after a while came back out. And so she went in to see the patient, and she was in really good spirits. It's like, oh, gee, the doc must have had some good news. Says, yeah, he told me my heart is as healthy as a horse. Said, well, that's not exactly what he told her. He told her you have gallop rhythm of the heart, which she took as a good thing.
Yeah.
And she got better. Conversely, there was another guy that was in there for just some minor procedure. He was going to be in essentially overnight or just, maybe a day or whatever. And the doctor came in, bad attitude, looked at the charts like, I see by your chart here, you're not going to be with us much longer, meaning it was going to be discharged the next day. And it says the patient took it as, I'm dying. And he was dead the next day. And there was nothing seriously wrong with him.
Oh
So
my goodness.
that told me about the power of the mind. So I knew whatever was going on with me was attacking my liver. So I'm going to start visualizing my body filtering my liver. And that's about the time I started going comatose, but I didn't realize it at the time. And the first stage was I became paralyzed. Within over about a 24-hour period, I couldn't move. And then over about another 24-hour period, I couldn't talk. So now I can't move and I can't talk. I can open my eyes, I can see and everything, but then about another day, I can't open my eyes. I am fully conscious. I am able to hear everything that's going on around me. And as I was kind of going under, my dad made a comment to one of some of the doctors that they started saying something negative about my condition. And he says, no, you never say anything negative about my son around him. You don't know what he can hear. I'm thinking, thank you, Dad. and so I just kept visualizing my body filtering the liver as well as praying like crazy.
Yeah.
And evidently, that's when I went into a coma. Well, I came out in the late evening, and one of my favorite nurses, because I've been in there for months at this point, so one of my favorite nurses was in checking on me at shift change, and I woke up, and it's just immediately, I woke up, could move, and I could talk, and I says, hi, and it just scared the crap out of her. She says, well, you've been in a coma for almost a week. And I'm like, okay.
So it didn't feel like that long to you?
No, I just thought I just went under, but like went to sleep or whatever for a period of time. But and so then they told me also that it was probably about 3 days that I went into renal shutdown. And so about a week later, I start having, because I'm now bloated with all of the fluid and medication they're giving me, my stomach looked like I was 9 months pregnant. And I started hemorrhaging. And we'd had a similar situation earlier in my stay, and they just there was just one little bleeder vessel that they just cauterized. So I'm saying, okay, well, hey, let's do that, and they weren't doing anything. And I kept asking, like, okay, so why aren't we cauterizing this? I can see it right here. Give me the cauterizing pen and I can do it, And I must have raised enough of a fuss that when I guess the charge nurse there realized something isn't matching what's in the chart. So she ordered, the blood. They didn't have O positive. They had O negative. They brought it in, and they're literally squeezing it into me. and I'm starting to float. I'm all but gone, and just finally I kind of come back, but I was almost gone at that point. And I found out afterwards. I asked one of my nurses, like, what was going on? Like, what the heck? Why was there a delay? And it says, well, when you went comatose in the renal shutdown, your doctor and your parents said that, if I died during in the coma, don't do anything elaborate to try and save me. Just let me go. So we have a no code on your chart. I was like, well, I'm not comatose anymore. Let's get that. So I told my doctor, take that off now. Like, so,
Oh
I mean,
my
it's just
god.
stuff like that. It says that you want to make sure that you, one, are vocal and participating in your treatment,
Yeah.
and your loved ones know what
Yeah.
your desires are.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it just really speaks to the concept of a patient advocate, right? Someone
Mhm.
paying attention and watching all of the things and monitoring everything, because often the family can't even be that for you because they're so distraught that someone they love is
Oh yeah,
sick and feeling helpless and everything. Anyway, and they might not know what they don't know either, right? We don't know what we don't
yeah.
know sometimes.
And
And
what's
yeah.
crazy too is after each major surgery that I had, um, I would get kind of this divine message, as I would call it. But as I was starting to get sick as a teenager, just like any kid, I imagine, daydreams. They visualize what they're doing in the future, type of thing. But
Mhm.
when just before I started getting sick, I could not visualize myself past high school. When I
Mm,
tried to see imagine what I would be doing, it was like a black movie screen.
mm,
I'm like, what the heck? So then after the original surgery, I could visualize myself doing stuff again. But as I was recovering from that surgery at home, I was sitting in the corner working on a little craft project, and my dad was reading something. And I said, this is going to sound weird, but I've got this voice in my head saying, no, not yet. You're not through here. And my dad put down what he was reading. It's like, well, I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah. It's like, well, they almost lost you twice on the operating table. And it's like, I didn't know that. Okay. And years later, I mean, there was like another surgery was like, um, help others. And I'm thinking, could you be a little more specific? And so then later on, it was, help the kids. And it was like, one time was like shouting at me, help the kids. So that after that, I got involved with the high school youth group at my church and that. But the it's just these divine messages that just kind of guided me, and it really, that's where the logical intuitive, the intuitive part comes in. During the health journey, it really um, cultivated my intuition.
Mhm.
And that last year, I started kind of reflecting back, because it's like you can't connect the dots as you're making the dots. It's only after you've got all the dots in place and you look back, like, oh, okay, I can
Yeah.
see where everything kind of, connects here and that. But I had this was thinking about it, says that all the computer programming that got my logical mind and my
Mhm.
mindset and everything. But then as my health journey, it really got me heart centered and really got my intuition
Mhm.
built up. And uh, last year, late, kind of late in the year, this is I've got a dear friend of mine that really think I consider her my soul daughter. She's just where you got a soul connection, and she could be a daughter. She's enough age difference there, but she shared with me this concept of, I guess Ernest Hemingway used it. I don't know if he developed it or something they just
Mm,
used, but whenever he would have writer's block, he would write one true sentence about whatever the subject was and then go from there.
Mm,
So she had written a one true sentence kind of about her life. And when she was a child, they were, you know, fairly close to Chernobyl meltdown, and had her
mhm,
mom was exposed to radiation and that. But she said, "Well, you should write one about you." It's like, okay, that's an interesting idea. So I, playing around into AI, artificial intelligence here. This is with the Chat GPT, and I did some brainstorming with my little chat, and refined one that really fits. It says that computer programming honed my logical mind, while my personal health journey cultivated my intuition. I
mhm.
am the logical intuitive, and I can help you actualize your full potential.
Mm,
So it's
I
just
love
really,
succinct. Yeah, it's very succinct and clear. So that takes us into, the customer journey. And I will throw the disclaimer out. Bruce is sharing his story, his experience. We're not giving you medical advice. Please go see a doctor if anything is going on with you. We are not making any of those suggestions. We're simply sharing story and journey and experiences of what's happened, for us. So when someone feels like they aren't, I'm imagining someone would come to you because they're feeling like they really want to be, living the best version of themselves, living their very best life, and they just feel stuck, or they're not quite there, or they need some clarity. Is that what you see to be true for clients who come seeking, the wisdom of Bruce?
yeah. Typically, it's they're kind of feeling stuck. They're not making the progress that they want, and or they're not sure where to start, type of thing. And this
Mm,
is what's
mhm,
their next step, and that, and that's where I kind of use a unique blend, or my own blend of logic and intuition during the coaching sessions and that, because
mhm,
there's times when we'll be, you know, talking about something, and they'll start sharing something, and all of a sudden I get this intuitive hit, and it's like, wait, we need to back up and go deeper in what you just talked about here. And
mhm,
so it's just in the discussion, then it just kind of bubbles up, what some root issue might be in that, and just helping them to um, you know, figure out a way that works for them to take that next step. And yeah,
mhm.
um, it's not so much telling them what to do, but just helping them uncover what is already there. It's-
Mhm. So, are you working with everyone in a one-on-one situation? Do you have workshops? Is it group coaching? Is it online courses? So what's the possible path of a journey for them to work with you? Does it start with a discovery call? Like
yeah,
where are the stepping stones they take to begin working with you?
yeah. Initially, it's the discovery or strategy call on that, just kind of learning, what the struggle is, and if we're a good fit for each other, and
Right.
so a lot of the times it's been one-on-one type of coaching that I'm going to be doing some group courses and that as well.
Mhm.
And I'm started with an outline of my own book, that I kind of put a pause on it while I was kind of developing uh, some companion courses and workshops to go along with it.
Mhm.
And those have been evolving in that. And it's like, okay, I'm going to pause the book right now, because I want all of it to kind
Work
of
together.
blend together and that
Mhm.
more. And but the book is Mindset Reset: How to Actualize Your Full Potential, and it uses my framework is the mindset, wellness, and communication, and then um, just helping people optimize each of those areas, and integrate small changes into your daily routine. And
Mhm.
that's kind of where I'm at on that. And like I mentioned before, since I've really been working with artificial intelligence, and so much so that I'm actually started taking a certification course to become an AI consultant. So I'll
Ah,
be
cool.
able to integrate that into
There
the
goes your
different.
logical brain again.
Yep.
So, tell us and share with us a tip that everyone could do listening today that would help improve their lives.
Well, one of the things, the interesting little trivia thing is that on average, everybody has around 70,000 thoughts every day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and
That makes my
most of
head
those,
hurt.
yeah, and most of those are the same as you had yesterday, and most of those are negative.
I'm living in the Groundhog Day.
Yeah. So those negative thoughts, I refer to those as automatic negative thoughts, or ants.
Mm,
And as soon as you're made aware of the fact that you have those going on, you become more aware when it happens. So when you notice that negative thought, that reaction that you're having, you just say, stop, cancel that, and replace it with a positive affirmation that, and focus on that instead. So that's one way to, kind of reduce and eliminate those ants.
I love that. I love that. I was thinking about when you were sharing your story about the power of the mind, even with the smallest of things. I don't have a story like yours to compare to, but even with the smallest of things, like my stomach starts to feel just not, a little upset, or I start to feel like maybe I don't feel good. But then I'll tell myself, you know what? I feel terrific. And then I actually literally start, I don't know who I could credit that to. There's an I feel terrific whole mantra or person who promotes that. And I don't know, I would give you credit if I could remember who you were. But I say that, and I even sometimes say it when I'm going to sleep, especially if I feel like a cold is coming on or sore throat's coming on. I'll just start telling myself. I also take things that will help reduce the chances of that getting worse. But I just tell myself I feel terrific. And my husband, there's another guy who gets credit for this one. I don't know who this guy is either, and I'm pretty sure they're both guys. So sorry about that, men. But it's every day and every way I'm getting better and better and better. Do you know who says that? I forget who says
I
that, but
don't recall the name. No. Yeah.
yeah,
So
but there's somebody who's famous for that. And so I'll pull that one out too. So yeah, I really think and then I'm guilty of sometimes, I'm the mother of 7 and I have a hot, hunky husband I actually like. So occasionally moms worry, So if it's raining or whatever and I'm praying for my husband's safety, I try to, like you say, cancel clear any like negative thoughts of anything bad happening. And I imagine us being, I know this is going to sound cliche, but on the front porch and in our rockers holding hands and being 120 years old, So
yeah.
I just take us to this place where, we're enjoying the moment together, but seeing the many years that we've been able to be together, to cancel clear out any of those negative gremlins that try to pop their heads in the thought process. So I think that's a great tip. Thank you for sharing it. Now, since we started the show, from show number 1, we have always asked our guests to share causes that are close to their heart. So share with us, Bruce, a cause that's close to your heart.
Well, the it's a foundation, Teen Suicide Prevention Society, and they obviously they're focused on
Mm-hmm.
helping prevent suicide with the teens, and that because
Mm-hmm.
there was a moment when I was really bad before I had any surgery that I thought about it all
Mm-hmm.
of about 10 seconds.
Well, I'm
And
glad it went away that
yeah,
fast.
and it's like, I thought, no, I can't do that to my folks and my family and everything. And it's just, so anyway, so I recently discovered this foundation through some other connections and that on some networking. And so, support them.
I wish they would call one of these organizations that does this, positive teens, supporting and helping the youth of our world with, to believe in themselves and having uplifting gratitude mindset on life, like changing their perspective of life. I love what the cause does and what it
Mhm.
avoids, but I just wish we would come up with a
Right.
more
Well,
positive name.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think positive teens is a good one. Maybe it's out there. I don't know. I haven't
Yeah.
Googled it. So if it's your trademark, forgive me. I'm not stealing your idea, but I just think it's a wonderful perspective. But yes, a very good. I always told my teenagers growing up, as long as there's life, there's hope. No matter how bad it seems at the moment, how low, and how much you believe no one else could possibly understand, you're not alone. And as long as there's life, there's hope.
That's
So
awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome because that's one of their really key foundations is to have the talk with the teens
Mhm,
before there's any issue in that, and
mhm,
ask them if they've ever had those thoughts or
mhm,
if they know of any of their friends that have, but get them to identify several reasons why they should stay alive.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just remembering that, there isn't any problem you can't work out as long as you're
Yep.
on this side of the dirt.
Yep. Yep.
So, it is all solvable, even as
Yep.
devastating as it can seem at times. This too shall pass, right? That's
Hmm.
something I had to learn as a mom with this many
Yeah.
children. This too shall pass. And sometimes you then look back and miss it, right?
Yeah.
So you just never know. I love that. So appreciating life is definitely a great cause. Now, as I am surrounded by them and everyone watching knows, we are creating the ultimate book list. We talked about one of the books, and I actually wrote it down. I'm going to get it from my husband. I think he would love this book, and I think I would actually love reading it. The Love, Medicine, and Miracles. I love the whole I've also read the Silva Mind Control. I really love to go and take a full blown in depth course with them. That's another. Do you know that one? It's a really great
The
um,
what was that?
Silva Mind Control.
Oh, no, I know I've heard of Silva School, but
Yeah,
yeah.
Silva. His book is called The Silva Mind Control System, I think, and it is you would love it, Bruce. I can't believe you haven't read it. You need to get your hands on that one. It's upstairs on my husband's dresser. I could run up and get it for you right now. I've read it twice myself. I need to read it again, but I would love to go take a live course with them. It's a phenomenal concept, but I'm interested to read this one too. For keeping our bodies healthy, for more for preventative and holistic kind of an idea for, something I believe would help, moving forward. But also I think, reading from the sounds of this book you shared, it sounds like I could also apply it to other things, right? Just
Mhm.
using that visualization and practicing that
Yeah.
process for different aspects of my life. Making helping me paint better, helping me kayak better, helping me relationship and communication better with my family
Yeah.
and the world around me. So all those things. If I think if you apply this kind of knowledge, it can
Well,
really really
it's
help
one
you.
of the, um, I mean, it's like there's all the classic business books like Think and Grow
Mhm,
Rich and The Magic of
mhm,
Thinking Big and all those, but
mhm,
there's different books along because it was like, oh gosh, what early 80s or whatever kind of started down my personal development journey and
mhm,
that and got exposed to all these different positive attitude books and that. But then along with that, during some of my health journey, I came up with a couple books that really hit home with me. And one of them was Betty Eady. I think it's Eide is her last name. Her book is Embraced by the Light. And
I
it,
read that.
but she describes her experience, her near death experience in the
Yes.
hospital. Well, I got that book. I don't know how I came across it, but I read it, and as she is describing her experience, she briefly, she dies and
I
goes
know.
to heaven and is allowed to remember her experience and come back and write about it. So as she's describing these different things that she sees in heaven, I'm reading it, it's like, yeah, that's right. It's like, how do I know that's right? You know, and then I discovered that I'd almost died, several times,
Mhm.
like, okay. Yeah. So anyway, that one really hit home with me.
I was on an airplane when I don't know how I came across the book either, but I was on an airplane and I read that book. I mean, I zoomed through it before the plane
Mhm.
landed. I was done. I was like, I couldn't stop reading it.
Yeah.
It's
And I actually
very
got to meet her at a book signing in Seattle and that. So I actually asked her because she specifically said in the book that she wasn't going to reveal which hospital it was in. And it's like, can you tell me? It's like, turns out it's the same hospital that I've been in. But at any rate, so anyway, that was one that really hit home
it's
with
not a
me. And
good
then,
advertisement for the hospital. Please don't mention it.
yeah,
Please
I mean,
don't say
this
the
is it.
name
And,
on video.
and it's interesting too, is um, the, uh, another book that I don't know how I came across it, the Celestine Prophecy.
I don't
I
know
can't
that
think of
one.
who wrote it, but
What's the,
um,
say the title again, clearer?
the Celestine Prophecy,
The
and
Celestine
it's a
something.
fictional book, but it's all about being centered and aware of your environment, and like everything around you has an energy field, and kind of
Mhm,
really focusing on these energy fields and that. So that's where I kind of learned more about energy fields, including my own.
mhm.
And then along the line, I wound up um, in one of the network marketing companies that I was with. We had magnetic products. And at one of the events, there was this book called The Emotion Code by
Mm.
Bradley Nelson. And I said, well, how does this fit in with the magnets? He says, well, he developed this emotion code about identifying and releasing trapped emotions, and he uses magnets to release those.
Ah.
So I got into that. And at the time, I was having an abdominal pain that was stabbing. And they said, well, you've got an adhesion that's attached to the inner wall of the abdominal wall there. And the other end is probably attached to the intestine. So every time the intestine kind of moves, it's tugging on that. Says, well, we could open you up and try to cut that, but just the fact that we open you up, we're going to create more adhesions. So you're just going to have to deal with it. It's like, oh, gee, okay. So when I read and learned more about this emotion code, how it worked, I did it, and I released that trapped emotion, that energy block, and I never had that come back.
Wow.
And so now that's one of the things that I use in my wellness area. And so it's fascinating because it is an energy block that's causing physical issues.
Well,
So,
tell us about some of the books you've been in.
well, I did a chapter in this one. The choice is yours. Make it a great day, volume 2, and it's all about the ants, getting rid of the ants, automatic negative thoughts.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Bruce, I always love having you at the show, on the show. And I'm just so glad you share your story. And, I would encourage you to watch some of the other shows we've done with Bruce, because in one of them in particular, I remember him going into great detail how he went in his mind in that time that he was there in that coma, through his body, all through his different limbs. I mean, somehow too intuitively, you must know, because you didn't study medicine or the human body, whatever. You just kind of went through and healed yourself from like head to toe and brought yourself back. And it's just remarkable what the human body can do and what the mind can do. It's truly a fascinating story. I just love having you here, and I hope
Oh,
you
thank
enjoy.
you.
I hope you enjoy being on the show.
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's like you're my biggest fan.
I am your biggest fan. I'm definitely a Bruce fan. I'll have to get a big foam thumb made for you. Um, So if you're watching, you're thinking, wait, I'm an industry expert. I can help improve someone's personal life. I can help someone grow their business. I should be on the show. I totally agree with you. Get
Yes.
yourself on it. Reach out to our team. We'll send you the information to jump on, and we will be happy to feature you. Now, don't be selfish. It's not nice. I bet if you are an industry expert, you know some other industry expert too. Be their hero, be ours, and introduce them to us so that we can feature them as well. So, thank you always for watching and sharing. You just never know whose lives you will touch or who needs to read one of these books or listen to this experience or know about or think about giving time, treasure, or talent to the cause Bruce mentioned or one that is close and near to your heart. So if we can motivate and inspire someone to be kind, and you could too just by hitting that share button, wouldn't that be great? So before we close out the show, we are going to ask Bruce, besides his beautiful, amazing, sparkling smile, to share with us one final thought, a piece of information or inspiration to share with us as we close out today.
Just be kind to everybody. It says you don't have any idea what they're going through. It's just it can make their world. Just a kind word or a compliment, and that can make all the difference, and including potentially keeping them from committing suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because you've been watching, that I couldn't agree with him more. I close every show out the same, and I always say and ask with my heart for you to remember to be kind to yourself and be kind to each other. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Bruce.
All right, thank you.